Hello, everyone, and welcome back, guys. We are streaming live for our review of Face the Raven, and I see we have a special guest on the couch, Scout.
It's true.
Have you noticed she started coming in
Yes,
every?
it's
She
now
wants to
it's now a
discuss
Tuesday
who with
thing.
us.
Yeah,
Yes,
she's
awesome,
watched enough Who in her life.
indeed. All right, so she could. We're going to give her a code
Yep.
name K9. There you
Okay,
go.
K9 is leaving again. Well, whatever.
Affirmative.
Affirmative.
All right. So, gentlemen, welcome back. And I know we've already got some people in the chat,
Oh, good.
but since we are recording, I will go ahead and say, here we go again. The Discussing Network presents Discussing Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm Kyle Jones, and I want to welcome back. I'm going to start this week with Clarence Brown. Mr. Brown, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. And like always, I'm happy to be on with you guys talking about this show we all love.
Indeed, indeed. And you know what? It would not be Discussing Who without the one and only Lee Shackelford. Mr. Shackelford, how are you?
Excellent indeed. And like Clarence, just glad to be here with y'all talking about Doctor Who.
So, before we get into Face the Raven, the reason that we're here tonight, I have a couple of things for news and one item that I would like to share, but I want to start with some Doctor Who news. So, since our last recording episode when we did Sleep No More, it's come out that not only will the Doctor be joined, or Ncuti Gatwa be joined by the new companion for the 2025 series, but it's looking now like Millie Gibson is staying around. Thoughts?
Yeah, I read that and thought that must be somebody who's got the wrong source. I mean, that's got to be a mistake, right? We said definitively that she's with us for one season.
Right. And then it seems like she's not, or
Yeah.
misdirection, or
We've been retconned.
retcon. She fell
Yeah,
into a trap street. Who knows? I don't think,
that's
I don't
right.
know.
Or maybe, this is just a theory, maybe the deal was that she was going to depart this year, but it was going to be in the Christmas special,
Perhaps.
which is often counted as technically part of the next season
Interesting.
sometimes.
Maybe.
Yeah. But this is season one, so who knows what the tradition is at this point.
But at this point, I love the fact that there is so much out there from the press engine that's coming out left, right, and center of all this information with Doctor Who related. Just today, I saw this clip from Entertainment Weekly with Ncuti being featured in Entertainment Weekly. Just absolutely love that.
Yeah.
So speaking of this season, I want to go back to the Church on Ruby Road for just a moment. And I was watching that episode over again this weekend, and I picked up on something that I think we missed, and I want to share it with you.
Let's have it.
All right. So for everyone who is watching on the video, you should see my screen that's coming up. And I went too far.
Wait,
I
that was an
put it
episode?
out of order.
I would have
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
I would have remembered
It's
that.
the Voyager.
It's the Voyager. Well, we'll get to that in just a moment. But watching this again, it said, or in the very beginning, the cold opening, the Doctor is in narration and he says, as for the mother, she was never seen again. No one ever knew her name until that night a time traveler came to call, a traveler known as the Doctor. We did not know her name until the Doctor came. Until that night, a time traveler came to call, a traveler known as the Doctor. So my thought is the scene that we see in the beginning of the Church on Ruby Road that we assume is when the Doctor goes back and rescues Ruby, is that not necessarily the scene that we are seeing at the beginning?
I like it. If you take the syntax of this sentence literally, yeah, We learned the name of her mother the night the doctor
Right.
came.
But we never named the mother in the episode.
Right.
And he specifically, when he rescued Ruby, did not run to her. You know, he let the woman continue walking.
Right.
I just
So-
I just thought that was really, really interesting.
That is very interesting.
So
So you're equating this to sort of Bad Wolf or Saxon or something, and maybe
Yes.
this is something that has
or
been placed here
particularly
for.
if you go back to season 5, when they're in the ship with the weeping angels, and there's the scene where the doctor comes and whispers in Amy's ear, and you realize at the end of the season that was not the doctor that she was with at the time. That was a different time version of him.
Right.
I'm thinking this is that same case.
Hmm.
So I'm sharing an image of the Star Trek Voyager. And Lee, would you like to share why I'm sharing Voyager in a Discussing Who episode?
Right. I don't know. Why are you sharing it?
All right. Well, then,
maybe it belongs in a discussing Trek, but
well, speaking of discussing Trek,
Yeah.
Clarence, I'll let you answer that. Why am I sharing a image of Voyager in this podcast?
While it is not directly related to Doctor Who, we do want to give a shout out to Mr. Shackelford there for the love he showed us, having recently ventured through all of Voyager on our suggestion. And I think the letter read that he loved it so much that he wanted to give us a little gift.
there you
And
go.
this is what he managed to. You explain. How did you make this, man?
I designed that as a computer model and printed it on my 3D printer and assembled it with infinite loving care, and it's been painted with glow in the dark paint. So you're doing the right thing right now, Clarence. You've got it right next to a powerful light and you're charging it up. So if you threw off all those lights right now, you'd see the deflector and the nacelles and everything. Anyway,
Yes.
it's I've been working on those for a couple of months now. So, but yeah, that is a token of esteem and gratitude to you guys, because I had I it's a long story, but I did some pouting and sulking about the Star Trek franchise for a long time, and so I didn't watch Voyager when it was on, and at your encouragement, I started it, and then before I knew it, it was over. And my goodness, that finale! So it still just makes my heart sing. So what a great series! What a great series! Anyway,
So for
There you are.
anyone who is listening to us via Apple Podcast or whatever the podcast player you're listening to of your choice, if you want to see that model, go check us out at youtube.com/discussing network, because this live stream of this recording
go.
is on there, and you can check out and see Clarence very eloquently and appropriately you did that perfectly, Clarence. I was sitting there watching
Yeah.
you, the way you showed the ship with the camera. That was awesome. So
it's in
kudos to
focus
you.
and everything. Yeah,
I just wish I had the music to play.
There you go.
it's in your head. It's always there.
It is.
Indeed. So, gentlemen, any other news items? Oh, actually, I have one written down that I want to share because, again, tying it to Doctor Who, because you took a picture at a TARDIS while there. You went to a certain convention over the last week.
Yeah, I spent the weekend before this recording at 221 BCon. There are a lot of Sherlock Holmes events out there. This is one that I especially enjoy, and I was hoping you had that picture here that you could bring up. I like a lot of cons these days, franchise cons. A lot of people have photo op things set up so you can stand next to something and do a selfie or an Aussie. And there's a fellow who promotes himself as Madman with a Box. I've got one of his business cards. It's something like that. Oh dear. Anyway, I think it is Madman with a Box. But
I think you're right. I think I remember that from our
he built
trip to
a
Atlanta.
he built a great TARDIS replica. There it is. And the three of us did a an Ussie with this thing, but it was also at 221 Beacon because there's a huge overlap between Sherlock Holmes fans, Doctor Who fans, and Star Trek fans. So
Hmm.
any and all of us were there, all under the same roof, usually in the same body, because lots of people there are like me, Sherlock Holmes, Doctor Who, and Star Trek fans. So a lot of overlap there. In fact, when we start talking about Face the Raven, I want to mention a a distinct similarity between the Sherlock Holmes stories and some episodes of Doctor Who. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, Heather Holloway was kind of the brains behind 221B and Crystal Knoll. And the two of them have just worked miracle after miracle in making this con come together. So another big shout out to them, big kisses. So yeah, next year, same time, Atlanta, Georgia, 221B Con. Check it out.
Awesome. And
Nice.
awesome picture, by the way.
Thank you. Helps to have long arms.
Hey, whatever works, right?
Yeah.
So, any other news before we move on? All right. Well, then, with that said, or that not said, I think it's time for me to say if you have not seen Face the Raven, put us on pause, go out, watch the episode, come back, because from this moment forward, spoilers. Alrighty, the spoiler warning has gone out, and we are back to review Face the Raven. This is the 10th episode of the 2015 series of Doctor Who, first airing on the 21st of November 2015. It starred Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor and Jenna Coleman as Clara Oswald. So, some review. Clarence, I'm going to start with you. Some review. Clarence, Clara is your girl. She is your companion. What did you think?
Oh man, I remember hating when she left the show. But I know there's different opinions on that. But this is me. This is me. But no, I think this is, if this were to be the send off, a very good send off, very emotional send off for a companion. It hits you all in the feels. At least it did for me. The pleading, the reasoning. It happens a lot when we see these companions get too close to being the doctor or trying to be the doctor. And we certainly see Clara get caught up in that situation. So, yeah, I really love this episode. I thought it was just well written, and the emotional beats definitely were there to make this a proper send off.
All right, Lee, what did you say?
I can't add much more to that because I agree completely. It's everything you'd want in a character send off. And watching it this time, it struck me. We've been talking about how very often Clara in these last two seasons ends up being the doctor. That we have stories that are even sort of Doctor Light, like Flatline, that I just love, that where she really is the doctor and pays the price for it. I mean, is that sort of what the big story arc of her is about? You can try to be the doctor, but this is what happens. I don't know.
So for me, I remember watching this, and at this time we knew Jenna Coleman was leaving, but I loved the fact that watching this episode through, my assumption was, oh, it's going to be on the very last episode. She will either get killed off, she will go off on her merry way, and then we see this episode, and it's kind of out of left field. I thought that was really, really well done, and as far as a companion exit, I liked the things that she said. I liked the interaction between the two of them. Felt genuine, and it was actually one of my Capaldi moments. Even though I've not watched it back in quite a while, I remember watching this scene with her and the doctor over and over and over and over again because I liked the interaction between the two of them. But I want to kind of pivot to a question that I was actually going to ask toward the end of our conversation, but I think I want to ask it now. You guys mentioned Clara and her interaction with the doctor, specifically her taking on what she felt like, or what we felt like, was the role of the doctor. So my question is, Does traveling with the doctor change the companion? Lee, I'll point it to you first. Does the companion change by traveling with the doctor?
How could it not? How could it not? Well, you know what it makes me think of as a fan of the classic series is Tegan, who really just wanted to go home. The whole time she's with the doctor, she just keeps beefing about how we're going in the wrong direction. You put me off at the wrong time. And, I just want to go home. And she seems to be the same person at the end that she was when he picked her up. And then the moment comes and she doesn't want to go.
Mm.
What do you think, Clarence?
I have to completely agree with what Lee said. I mean, it's like if I was to equate it to something in the real world, I would say if you were traveling with LeBron James or the
Mhm.
president or just anybody
Mhm.
famous, you'll get a certain amount of swag about yourself from being in that vicinity, in that aura. So we definitely see how traveling with the doctor has changed Clara. Um, there's a certain amount of confidence that comes with traveling with the doctor too, and we see that kind of gets her in trouble eventually.
All right. So I'm going to stay with you, Clarence, but I want to now ask, does traveling with the doctor make the companion reckless?
Is it really reckless when you know you're going to get out of it 99.99% of the time? I just think she has a good amount of insurance behind her. So reckless, maybe, but is it really reckless when you know you have, um, this Time Lord, the doctor who makes a statement in this episode? You know my resume. You know my resume. You know what I've done. You know why people fear me. You have that guy on your side. Are you really going to be that reckless or afraid, or is it reckless at all because you have this champion in your corner fighting for you if something bad goes down?
Lee, reckless. Yes, no, thought.
Well, I started to say it certainly did with Sarah Jane because I'm thinking of the Sarah Jane adventures, but then I thought back to her first adventure. No, she's always like that. So, I'm not sure that came as a result of traveling with the doctor, but but did it embolden her? Certainly. I
Mm.
mean, do you think Joe Grant swans off as the same person she was when she came to unit? I think she is a little taller. I think,
Mm.
you know, uh, yeah, I imagine that it would. If you have so many experiences of facing and then cheating death, I think it'd be hard not to take that out into your rest of your life.
And
Yeah.
that if we want to equate my question to the real world, we
Uh,
could look at it from the perspective of anybody we meet, whether it's LeBron James, whether it's meeting the two of you, we
oh,
take little pieces of those people with us and change because of who we're with. It just so happens that the circumstance, and if I want to go circumstantial, I could say if someone is a firefighter, or someone is a
mhm.
police officer, or someone is a paramedic, or whatever the case may be, that goes into danger as part of their occupation that they have chosen, someone could say, well, that's reckless to do, but it's not necessarily because that's the circumstance that they
Right.
have chosen,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
But
know.
yeah, I always say we have so many statues to generals and to statesmen. And I always want to say, where are the statues to our firemen and our policemen? I mean, my golly,
Mm.
just if you've ever watched firemen handling a conflagration where there's people inside, it just makes you want to take your hat off and weep. It's yeah, but you could also say, well, they're doing their job.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But what's really cool about that is, here they are, they're in one part of town and there's a fire all the way in the other part of town. And literally with Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever the case is, they're using maps to get to where they are very, very quickly to do
mm,
exactly what you said, unless maybe where there is an issue is a place called a trap street. How do you like that for a
ooh,
segue?
okay. I wondered where you were going with that.
But what if they can't find it? What if it is hidden from perception because it is a trap street? So, thoughts on the concept of trap street? Either one of you.
For me, I'm sure Harry Potter was pretty popular at the time this episode came out. It seems like
Yes.
it was definitely ripped from Diagon Alley, if I'm saying that correctly.
Hmm.
So I had very strongly Harry Potter vibes. The mere muggles do not know how to find this place.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool. I liked it.
Okay. Lee, what do you say?
My dad was, in fact, a cartographer. And so I was aware of the concept of the trap street. And Clara describes it accurately. It was a way of knowing who's stolen your work. Pretty clever. But yeah, and the doctor says that's not what it is at all.
Mm.
You have these mysterious side alleys, and you think it's about copyright infringement.
No,
It's what?
no, I just think that that's really, really cool.
Yeah, it
The
is. It's
whole
the
idea.
whole idea. But yeah, you may know that in motion picture screenplays now that there's software you can run when you're printing out copies for members of the cast and crew, and it randomly generates a typo in each person's script. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
So that when the script gets leaked out,
Oh, interesting. I like
you
that.
know who did it.
Nice.
Yeah,
Oh, that is too
Nice.
it's
cool.
pretty clever. Yeah, so that's the trap street in screenplays. But yeah, it is a lot of fun, and yeah, you can't not think of Diagon Alley here. I mean, yeah, but the visual reveal of it, I think, was really really nice. You
Yes,
know, as the
agreed.
camera sort of slowly pulls to one side, and yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
let me just mention real quick. We mentioned Torchwood offline, but for some
Hmm.
reason, this it gave me the Torchwood feels. This Trap Street, you know, right under the surface level, all these
Hmm.
things going on with these different aliens. It gave me the Torchwood vibes.
You know, it's weird now that you mentioned that. I think I feel you there because it seems very, very Torchwoody. And especially the glitching faces of all these different
Hmm.
beings in the alleys hidden away. I remember there was one where I think it was an Ood fixing a Cyberman, and I
Yeah.
Hmm.
was like, "What are the chances?" Right?
Yeah, what's going on here? Yeah.
Mm.
Well, and all the stakes are life and death too. This we're not playing around here. That what we learn is that infractions of the law here, the penalty is death, and everybody comes out to watch. It's
Mm.
it's pretty grim. This is a very very dark episode of Doctor Who. I was at the Gallifrey con when John Barrowman said that Torchwood was Doctor Who for grown-ups,
Yeah.
and he got booed by the audience, and who all loved him,
John.
of course. But yeah, but he was saying, hey, you know what I mean. But um, you know, there's a way in which he's not wrong, and yeah, you're right. There's a definite Torchwood shadow across this episode.
Because if you take away the facade of these 18th century looking or 19th century, whatever year
Mhm.
it's supposed to be,
Somewhere in there.
of the look that they have, these are some really tough creatures and tough beings that we're seeing. This
Hmm.
isn't, dainty little fella and dainty little lady, and
No,
you know
you're
this.
you're in Moss Isley.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
A wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Yep.
Well,
There you go.
before we move on, I want to bring in two comments from the chat. Our friend Wingrace says that the idea of the trap street, excuse me, seemed a bit like Hellboy 2 also. And then our friend Janet Hall says that she likes the quote, "Show me your friends and I will show your future." Clara mirrored the doctor. Yep, I like that as well.
Mhm.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of really wise things said in this episode. It's a very
Oh yeah.
quotable episode. Yeah.
Indeed. Indeed, indeed. Well, we're talking about the inhabitants of the Trap Street, but inevitably, to keep all of these beings under control, someone has to be in control, and we see the person in control is me. Not me, literally, but Mayor me, a Shilder. A Shilder has returned, Lee Shackelford.
Who?
Thoughts? A Shilder, me.
Who's the Shilda?
Yes, exactly. My brain, I read about her.
Yeah. Our
Thoughts?
800 years of diaries, or now it's like 1,000 years of diary, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting to see her turn back up again. And because so much time has passed now, the mission has changed again. That she's still defending those who can't defend themselves. So good on her, but this is how she's doing it now. It's she's ruling with a sort of a technological iron fist. All right, I guess it's technological. It sure all feels like magic, which I guess just adds to our feeling that we're in Diagon Alley. But a lot of it is about technology and very much built on the shade, which seems to me like a magic thing, but it is another life form from another world. So that's sort of what that's about. But yeah, she's still, there's still a straight line going through her story. We just come out at an unexpected place in it. It's like, oh, okay, so this is who you are now. You're not a highwayman anymore.
Mm.
Yeah,
So,
you're the
so,
mayor.
so Clarence, do you think her turn as the mayor and ruling with the Chronolock and this shade creature, do you think this was too heavy-handed, or do you think that was needed?
Um, I, I certainly feel like Lee mentioned it feeling more like. I guess we all mentioned it feeling more like Torchwood as far as being dark. Yeah, it was a lot to see her play judge, jury, and executioner in some of these instances that we see in this episode. But she makes the statement that the rules are the rules, and um, there is a certain amount of soundness to that. But by the same token, um, everything isn't so black and white. And then we see in this episode, we finally come up into a case of it where, maybe it shouldn't have been
Yeah.
Mm.
exacted in the way it was. Though we know there's a larger story there with her and making deals and all this other stuff. But still, it seems like a bit much. A bit much.
All right, so I'm going to shift into why they were there. Why
Hmm.
was the Doctor and Clara there? We assume at the beginning, because we see the return of Rigsy, we see him with this tattoo on his neck that is counting down, that gets the Doctor and Clara's attention. Then we see why, because evidently he's being accused of murder, and that's why he's got the countdown. Lee, what did you think of Riggsy's return as a character? Were you happy to see him? Your thoughts about his return, and then the predicament he found himself in?
Oh, it's just lovely. I'd hoped since Flatline that we would see Rigsy again, and yeah, and I appreciate the opportunity to go back to talk about this teaser because I wanted to say something else about that before. That this is that huge overlap between Doctor Who and Sherlock Holmes stories. A lot of the Sherlock Holmes stories begin with Watson as our narrator saying, I was thinking about telling you about the story of this or about the time that Holmes did that, but what I've decided to tell you is this. So now there's two unrecorded adventures out there. He teased us with them, and some of them are very provocative teases. Most famously, about the giant rat of Sumatra, a story for which the world is not yet prepared.
Mm.
So we'll never know what that's about. But in this episode, as with so many others, we begin with the Doctor and a companion coming into the TARDIS, laughing or soaking wet or on fire or something because of something else has just happened, and they'll talk about it and they'll say, "Remember that time when? Yeah, hey, you almost." We have no idea what that was about, and we'll probably never know. So the unchronicled adventure, the off-screen adventure, is to me one of the most interesting overlaps between the Sherlock Holmes world and the Doctor Who world. But yeah, immediately we get a phone call in the TARDIS, and you can see it in their faces. It's like, uh-oh, and what the hell? So yeah, how many people in the universe have that phone number?
Yeah.
Is it going to be River Song?
Is it going to be
Is
Missy?
is
I
it
was
going to be
thinking the woman in
Missy?
the shop.
That's right. It's yeah. We've established a handful of people that it could be. Unit, possibly. Yeah, it's Rigsy. You gave him this number. Well, but yeah, he has the countdown tattoo. And so after opening titles, our Act 1 begins with him at Rigsy's place, where he has apparently married and has children, has a baby, has a beautiful baby girl, which changes the stakes for him. I think. I think we needed to see that. Um, would you agree with that? That it changes how we feel about Riggsy in this story to know that he's now got responsibility.
Yeah, and even for Clara, I think part of her making that decision to transfer the countdown was because he did have a family. She
Mm-hmm.
even I think she even said it. You have a family back home.
Mm. Yeah, I totally agree. I like the actor, and I think the
Mm.
last time we saw him when we reviewed Flatline, I said that I really enjoyed him in Doom Patrol playing Cyborg,
Mm.
and I like him in this. He's younger, of course, in this, but totally like him as an actor. I want to bring in a comment from our friend Janet. She says that she, and that means Clara,
Clara.
represents the cycle of grief to me in the series. He, which would be Riggsy, is a weak plot device. Sorry. No, don't be sorry. That's a perfectly valid
Mm-hmm.
point.
Legitimate.
For me, I think why I like seeing him come back was it gave a character that the audience had already seen, not a random character that was introduced, that gave Clara a little bit more, for me, a little bit more oomph to make that decision that she did. So we see Clara make the decision to take the chrono lock onto herself because she has been guaranteed the protection of the mayor. So her logic is, hey, I've got a guarantee that I'm safe. If I have this, then I'm safe.
What can go wrong?
What can go wrong? So my question is this a case of hubris? Is she getting ahead of herself and assuming here?
I don't think so. It just doesn't play as being arrogant to me at all, but just unbelievably brave and selfless. I mean maybe I'm reading it the way I want to read it, but that's how it seems to me.
Clarence, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it kind of mirrors when we see her facing the Raven at the end of the episode. It's a case of Clara being very brave, even knowing the consequences of what's going to happen because she's marking herself for death by doing this. But again, I don't know if I call it hubris. I would call it confidence. I would call
Hmm.
it being in the area of the doctor, um, almost thinking that I'm invincible because we know how the doctor loves his companions. Now he will go to bat for his companions. So yeah, I thought it was a very brave thing for her to do, but I don't know if it was hubris. I think she just was confident.
So my thought is exactly what you guys said. I agree that it was selfless. It was thinking and trying to see all the different parts of the equation. If I try to take myself out of what I have as an opinion and try to dissect and break it down and break it apart, that's where I come with does it make us reckless? Does it make,
Hmm.
was there hubris? Because I'm trying to think outside that box of what is the emotion she might be going through and looking at it from the lens of what are the ramifications, and would she not, had she been in the orbit of the doctor, been presented with something similar, would she have said, how can I get him out of this, and not assume that? I don't know if there is a right or wrong
Hmm.
answer to that. I don't think there is.
Yeah, no, let me mention real quick the comment of Rigsy being a weak plot device. That makes me think if the doctor and Clara were really being smart, it seems like they would have been able to at least kind of deduce that, okay, he has his countdown, but he's lost his memory. So it's almost obvious that somebody wants the doctor or some other important person to eventually find Rigsy and get tracked back to the source. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a mystery they can't refuse, obviously, but yeah, it does. You can see the setup a lot clearer now that yeah, maybe they should have thought it through a little bit more.
Hmm.
So let me ask you this question. When did you guys realize, hey, this isn't right? Something is going on here. When did you guys have that feeling?
When we saw Anna in the stasis field and established that she's not dead,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's when I started thinking, uh, backdoor. Um,
Yeah.
we may want to start easing away from this. Yeah.
Mm.
But I didn't, I would not pretend like I knew what to do.
Yeah.
We still haven't gotten Riggsy out of this. Yeah.
So, what did you think of Anna's real? Let's see, her species, I guess, called the Janus. They have the females of the species have the insight, and then she has who she had passed off as being a son, but was actually her daughter that also had that insight, who we also go on to see become Black Panther in the second Black Panther movie. So we've got a DC superhero and a Marvel superhero in this. We got Shuri and we've got Cyborg. So
Right.
really, really cool.
In Diagon Alley.
Yes.
Hmm.
So go ahead, Claire.
No, I was going to mention it was cool seeing Sherry Letitia Wright pop up in this. I remember the first time I saw this episode when I saw her pop up in the Marvel stuff. I was like, what? She's okay. I like that move.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think she's a great actor. I've seen a few movies with her in, and it's cool to see her.
Wasn't she in an episode of Black Mirror as well?
Yes, she was. Yep. Yeah, she's a pretty good actor. Yeah, I like her.
I want to bring in a comment from our friend Tasha. She says, if I were special to the doctor, I would take my chances against anything. I think you hit the proverbial nail, hammer, whichever combo it goes, you hit it.
He does lose in defending his companions every now and then, but just think of the sheer number of times that he's been able to snatch them from the jaws of fate. It's yeah.
Well, unfortunately, he was not able to, in this episode, snatch her from the jaws of fate. Her fate is sealed. And we find out that Mayor Me is working for someone else. We don't know who that someone else is, but she's trying to get the doctor's confession dial. And she's ultimately trying to get the doctor to unlock this stasis chamber, get this teleport on his wrist, and be sent somewhere. What do you think of the duplicity that Mayor Me had? Was she right? Was she wrong? Thoughts?
To me, it feels like, and I don't know the exact beats of the next few episodes. I know some big things, but not the exact beats. It feels like she's over the barrel. I mean, someone has heard that the rights her. I don't know what it is. I can't remember what it is, but it just seemed like when we left her the last time, her and the doctor had an understanding. She was going to be the other protector of people of Earth, and that's kind of what she's doing here. But in this case, she even makes a statement to Clara. I didn't know that you would end up like this, or this would happen to you. So there is some remorse on her side. I just don't know who it. Well, I kind of know who it is, but she's definitely against the gun on this one, up against the gun on this one. She's doing what she has to, maybe to protect the people here in Diagon Alley. I'm sorry, Trap. But yeah, there's more story there, obviously.
All right, Lee, without giving anything away from next two episodes, what do you think of her receiving an offer that you can be going to protect the Trap Street if you do this? Do you buy that?
Yeah, you feel that must be what's going on here. I mean, we've seen who she is, and we've seen that she changes, but her essential nature is still there. She's a good person. If she's doing something that seems heartless, somebody's got to have a gun to the head of her kids or something, and we just don't know what it is. And so I buy it. It'd be interesting to find out what it is, what the hold is that somebody has over her. But
I think she actually says in the episode when she's explaining herself, she says, I think at one point, either after Clara dies or right before, that I was promised protection, that this street would always be safe.
Mm.
So that was the change off. You bring us the
That's right.
doctor, we will protect the
Mm.
street, basically.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
And again, I don't know if looking at it from an outside lens, if I can believe that blanket protection.
Well, that's right. If she's made a deal with Davros or somebody of that nature, then no, she's not being a good person.
Right. You know, so
So
but even
it kind
if
of
you
depends
were
on.
with the right intent, how can you know that that person or persons can be ultimately protective?
Right.
That's my
Yeah.
point.
If they're even going to keep their word.
Deal with
Yes.
the devil.
Yeah.
Mhm. This is a deal with the devil, no matter what.
Right. So that was what, kind of, I
Mhm.
get her idea of where she's going with it, but I didn't like the fact of it's almost like you're gambling off of, will this pay off? And you don't know. You're going on faith, and not saying faith's the bad thing by any shape, form, or fashion, but it feels like she was going on faith.
Yeah, also let me add that I thought that she just was doing all of this because she just wanted the TARDIS. She had been on Earth for so long and she was just tired of being on
Oh,
Earth.
right.
And she just needed to get away and see what else was out there. So I was definitely thrown off the track because once I got wind that she may be behind it in some sense, I really thought she was just trying to get the TARDIS.
Me too.
because
Totally agree. Totally agree. But we see, of course, Clara has accepted it. It can't be taken back. She broke, once you give it, there has to be a death, and she broke the contract. So she's got to face the Raven, so to speak. Then we have this heartfelt moment between the doctor and Clara. Thoughts about Clara and the doctor's moment. Clarence, I'm going to put it to you. Thoughts?
Man, what can I say? Some of the best writing there for Clara just pleading to the doctor. She makes the thing that we always know the doctor needs. You're going to be alone. It's going to be difficult, and just the overall plea that she had for him, knowing what the doctor would do for the PP love. Health hath no fury, I guess.
Mhm.
And she's just telling him, no, not in my name. No, you're not gonna rain destruction because of me. And yeah, and then she's kind of holding the doctor to it, and just a difficult scene, but also just a beautifully scripted scene to watch play out. Very emotional scene for the end of this character's run, and hats off to Capaldi as well for the expression on his face, his eyes turning red, just the intense look he had the whole time Clara was delivering this speech.
Okay.
Great moment.
Lee, thoughts?
It is a great performance from Capaldi here, and it would be easy to overlook that because Clara gets to do all the talking. But he's a great actor. I feel like he could hold a whole episode just by himself.
Never
But
happened.
okay, no, that's ridiculous. Forget it. Forget I said that. When my time comes, as it will, I want to be able to look at someone who loves me and say, "This is as brave as I know how to be.
Mm.
I know it's going to hurt you, but please be a little proud of me."
So good.
Very good.
Yeah.
If I were to compare that with the scene of Amy's exit, the afterward letter, the afterward letter for me personally, emotionally, gets me more than this did. But if I were to say on an eloquence level, this was more eloquent to me. The interaction. Maybe it's because I'm seeing both, instead of hearing one and seeing the other, I'm, able to see both, characters interacting as opposed to, knowing the context of the other. A lot of the beats of what is said are similar. Don't travel alone. You're going to be alone. Don't be this. Don't be this. So a lot of those beats are the same. But as
Yeah.
far as eloquence goes, I think this just narrowly beats out the Amy goodbye as far as eloquent. And I just really, really, really loved it. What I didn't love was the scene where Clara goes as brave as she can be. She goes out, she does it alone. I'm totally fine with that. But what took me out of the story every time I watch it is the scene of her laying on the ground outside. It just looks awkward how she fell. It just looks like she fell too perfectly placed. You know, the way her legs are
You want
kind
to
of
just tumble
shaped.
over on her head? I mean,
No, I'm not. I don't
Yeah.
mean any ill will. At all. Absolutely no ill will. But I just thought that looked a little too staged.
A little
And
posed.
yes,
Yeah.
and then the doctor walks back in and starts talking, and she's just laying out there in the street. You know.
Yeah. From that point on, I had a number of questions about are they going to take her body back to who and where? And wait a minute, how are we getting Rigsy back? And then the TARDIS is back with Rigsy somewhere in a post-credit sequence with no explanation. So
memorial. Yeah.
Yeah.
like, what?
yeah, so that's lovely, but we know the TARDIS has emergency protocol 1 or whatever it's called that will make it a homing pigeon. But,
And if not that,
so-
I always took it that me and her guilt of what had been done got him home safely and moved the TARDIS somewhere.
but leaving Rigsy to deal with Clara.
I don't have we
No.
seen the Doctor be overly sentimental about? I guess we don't see it often, but about a body, about once the soul has left a person. I don't know if we've seen it much, but
No, I don't think so. I think that he always figures that when people are dead, they become a pile of organic chemicals. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
Well,
I think he may not be.
interestingly, this is the first time a companion has died, as in their death is in the context of the now in the show, since Adric. I've just mentioned Amy. We've heard of Amy dying, but that wasn't in the now. She had died
Right.
years before. This
And
is
we
the
know where
first-
she's buried.
and we know where she's buried. But this was the first time a companion in the now since Adric had passed
Yeah.
on.
well,
And he doesn't really leave a body.
Nope. I want to bring in a comment real quick from Morgan Lee, who is in the chat. She says they're my favorite duo, and what a fantastic parting. And I agree
Hear,
with
hear.
that totally.
Gina Louise's face is a magnificent instrument. Then the actor knows how to play it. And I'm just always amazed at the things that she can do with that little face. And yeah, it's never used to greater eloquence than it is here. And I really think that's a lot of it, Kyle, as you were saying before. We don't just get her voice and these magnificent lines to say, but that extraordinary face of hers. It's
yeah.
Yep.
try
Well-
to look away. Yeah,
Well
try.
said.
Hmm.
I want to bring in one more comment real quick, again from our friend Janet. She says, in referring to me as the reason why she did that, she thought she was just bored. I like that.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
She was just bored. And she said, all right then.
Yeah.
Well, we know who wasn't bored. We know the doctor literally was livid after he walked back in. Thoughts about the doctor's interaction with Mayor Me as he came back in again, quite livid. Lee, what do you think?
I love that exchange. Oh, she was saving you. She was saving you.
Yes. So good.
Yeah.
So
And
good.
and he's a man of his word, she gave him an order and he's going to follow it. But the universe can be a very small place when I'm angry with you.
Yes. Oh, Clarence, what do you think?
Well, you don't want to make the doctor hell bent on finding who's behind something. I'll tell you that. And he
Hell bent.
Yeah, or heaven sent. Who knows?
Yeah, he's you know what? I think he's going to do the best he can to respect Clara's wishes, but he's a man on a mission. I think.
My favorite part of that interaction is when she says something like doctor, and he says, the doctor is not here. You're dealing with me.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I love the fact when, again, that's not revealing the name, but is giving a nod to the doctor is simply what this being calls themselves, not their name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I was going to make just a real quick comment, and it kind of mirrors what Clara was saying to the doctor. Well, the doctor commented back to her, and he said, "What's the point of being a doctor if I can't cure you?" You know. So it
She
feels like
says,
to
then
me,
heal yourself.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I had a duty of care. And she says, well, I never asked you for that.
Mm,
You shouldn't have to.
Right.
It's a great argument. They've both got really good points to make, but just shut up and listen to her. Yeah.
Really quick before I ask one more question to you guys, I want to bring in something that Tasha says. She says, I can't wait until the entire Who catalog comes to Disney Plus. Listening in really makes me want to revisit these episodes. That would be nice to have all Who in the same place, like our
May it be
friends in
so.
the UK.
Yeah.
So, question to you guys: do you have any other things in your notes before we get to our finals?
Well, Clarence mentioned how much this tone makes us think of Torchwood, and what got us talking about that was the mention of retcon here, which was the memory suppressing drug used frequently on Torchwood at this time. So that's how the Doctor's familiar with it, and that is one of my favorite inside jokes in all of Who is calling the drug retcon, uh, because as fans we're familiar with retroactive continuities, but
yeah.
in Torchwood, we learned that you can do it with people's heads if you want to. That's really great. And I'm just a great admirer of ravens. Actually, I've written a play, a sort of a vigilante play like Zorro, where somebody dresses up as a raven and he's a feared figure because people in that community know how smart ravens are, and they are incredibly intelligent birds. They use tools, and and the word is, I think, originates in the 13th century. We've been calling those birds ravens for a long time, and using that word to describe the blackest thing there is, raven.
Mm.
So naturally, the shade comes to Earth and takes the form of a raven, and maybe they always have. So, but yeah, I was just glad to see a raven figure centrally in this story. Yeah.
Sweet. All right.
Nice.
So, Clarence, any other items for you before we get to our quotes?
Nope. I'm good.
Well, then I will ask you then. Favorite quote, Clarence Brown. What's your favorite quote?
Oh man, there are so many. There are so many. But I guess I'll keep it simple by saying the doctor. Well, Clara pleads to the doctor when it gets down to it, and she knows that this might be the end. She just turns to him and says, "We can fix this, can't we? We always fix it." Oh,
Not this time.
It's funny. I am hearing something very similar where River in a future episode will say, this is where you fix it. This is where you come in at the last minute and you make everything okay, or something to that effect. So,
Yeah.
All right, Lee Shackelford, favorite quote.
Well, it's a horrifying moment, but it's still so powerful that it jumped out to me as my favorite line. The doctor is no longer here. You are stuck with me, and I will end you and everything you love.
yes.
And he's not kidding. It's a reminder that the doctor isn't born that way. Being the doctor is a choice. And right now, he's laying it down. And if you're not scared, you're not paying attention. Yeah.
Do me a favor, if you don't mind, Lee Shackelford. Would you say that again? What you
Which?
just said? Your quote. Would you mind saying it again?
Oh, the doctor is no longer here. You are stuck with me, and I will end you and everything you love.
Thank you. And that,
You're welcome.
my friends, is my favorite quote. You said it so much better than
well,
I, so I said,
You mentioned
"Let
it
me hear
earlier, so I
again."
felt sure, yeah.
Yeah. I love that. That is just
What a moment, yeah.
by far my favorite quote. And moving in now to our favorite scene, I will say that my favorite scene was all of that, with the Clara doctor back and forth, and even into the post Clara dying, that entire end part of that montage. I know that's not one single scene, that's a section, but that is my favorite. I thought it was well done, really enjoyed it. So, Lee, I'll shift back to you. What was your favorite scene?
Same. It's that whole exchange between the Doctor and Clara. You can't possibly top that. Um, just and my thumbnail name for that whole section was "I'm giving you an order." Just love it.
Clarence, favorite scene?
My favorite scene is going to be the Doctor's fury, as he is laying it to Ashildr, me, Mare, whatever you want to call her, and yeah, he is pissed.
Yep. Totally agree. So as we're moving into our final rating, I will ask anyone in the chat who would like to also contribute to final ratings. Please do tell us and let us know what you would like to contribute 1 out of or up to 5. So I'm going to move back to Clarence. What is your final rating?
My final rating is going to be 4.8 TARDIS memorials out of 5.
All right. Lee Shackelford, what say you? What's your final rating?
As much as I love this climax, it's not really an episode that I enjoy. It feels, I don't know. Maybe it's the darkness of it. Maybe it's just sort of, I can't explain it, but it's just, I just remember not liking it very much when I first saw it, and this time I had all the same feelings. But boy, what a powerful send off for Clara, and you can't argue with that. But so I can't give it any more than 3 Rigsy babies out of 5.
Oh, okay. So I like the Doctor being angry. So I'm going to give this a 4.5, 12 angry doctors out of 5. So that's what I'm going to give. And I'm going to say that Morgan in the chat gives it 10 very angry eyebrows out of 10 or 5 out of 5, if you will.
Right. They come in
And
pairs.
I love that. Hey, angry eyebrows deserve a 10. Janet gives 3 countdown numbers left me unfulfilled. Our friends, the Time Scales, welcome to the chat. 4 out of 5, and greets from San Francisco. Hello to San Francisco. Cheers to you. And I think that's it, my friends. I
got one more question for you.
All right, question. What is it?
If you had a tattoo like that on the back of your neck, how would you live your life?
Counting it down, not seeing it. I don't know.
No, if you saw it and it had lots and lots of numbers on it, but you knew you could see it counting down. Just I'm not expecting an answer. I just thought I'd toss that out for people and just carry that with you for the rest of the week.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting thought. You know, maybe one of those things that we could speculate that we would have some alone time, maybe. For you know, maybe who's to say that might be in our future? Just to contemplate having that clock on the back of your neck that's counting
Could
down.
happen.
Maybe for years, billions of years, even. Who knows?
Hey, do all the things you want to do before that number hits 0.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Which is funny because we all have that countdown, whether we know it or not.
You just can't see it.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Very, very deep. You got there. You got
Yes, making me sad. Let's move on.
Well, I just wanted to, hey, rejoice. I mean, you probably got lots and lots of those numbers, you know, but still something to think about.
Well, you know what number that really is stuck in my mind and will end it on a positive?
Yeah.
The numbers 5, 10, and 15. Do you know why those numbers 5, 10, and 15 are 15. Really making me smile right now?
May the 10th and the 15th Doctor.
Exactly. I get to see the 15th Doctor in an episode, on 2 episodes on 510.
Wow.
So there you go.
It'll be here before you know it.
Indeed, indeed. But you know what will be here before we know it? Because it is happening right now. I'm saying thank you everyone for joining us. And as always, we will be back next time.